Hello and welcome to Newsbreak Chats. I'm Chai Hofilenia. I'm the editor of Newsbreak, which is the investigative and in-depth section of Rappler. Katapusan na ng Enero. Ang bilis, di ba? We're focusing today on a topic that's been rarely written about in the media. This was the subject of a two-part series that our guests for today put together in 2019. Nilabas yung story December after Christmas, so baka some of you might not have read these stories, pero napakahalaga ng isinulat nila ng mga storya. So we will be discussing these two-part stories series today. This was about the women of the Eastern Caliphate, and ang mga sumulat nito ay si Ana Santos, to my right, si Nico Dizon, and Michelle Abad, who's our researcher. Welcome to Newsbreak Chats, ladies.
Hi, Ms. Chai. Hello.
Hi. So Ana has been writing for Rappler, ilang taon na, di ba?
Several years.
Panahon pa ng Newsbreak, nung magazine pa siya. And she's been writing about women, sex, gender.
All the interesting sexy
Yes,
issues.
the very hot and interesting
Hot and
topics.
interesting sexy issues,
And
yeah.
she's also been writing a column for us, which is Dash of Sass,
Yes.
right? And si Nico naman, hi Nico.
Hi.
She was covering defense and Malacanang for the Inquirer before napunta siya sa kanyang passion, which is
K-pop,
K-pop.
Hindi nga
Yeah.
K-file, yun pala yung passion.
Oo. So from K-pop,
calling.
hinatak namin pabalik sa hard news si Nico. So she is part of this series. And Michelle naman is our newest addition to Newsbreak. She's our new researcher and writer. So let's jump in dun sa stories ninyo. Ana, maybe you can tell us about how this story came about, and then paano siya nagsimula.
Well, apart from the women and sex issues, or maybe related to that, I've also been covering labor migration, and specifically our female migrant workers for the last couple of years. So I was looking for, ano ba ang bago? Ano bang bagong nangyayari sa labor migration? Ano yung mga bagong issues? And then I stumbled upon one news article that said that there was a Filipina who was detained in Saudi Arabia for involvement in terrorism, and another unnamed Filipina allegedly involved or planning a suicide bomb attack in Kuwait. Sabi ko, suicide bomb attack, Pilipina? Bago yun, no?
Yes.
So I started to dig. I couldn't find a lot of things related to suicide bombing for Filipinas, but at the same time, there was a report that came out by a think tank in Jakarta. Indonesian migrant workers were being radicalized to become suicide bombers or to plan suicide bomb attacks.
So point of curiosity ba yun for you, that women potentially being suicide bombers?
Yes. I was looking for what's new with women and migration, and then this came in, and I said, this is really interesting. You know, we think of women as brides, we think of them as, very passive roles,
Yes.
messengers, their wives and mothers. But this one is very active role, no? Very assertive. So that was really a point of curiosity. And then also you want to think about what motivates them. So we had that. We had that little clue that we got from the stories. We had a think tank report. So doon, may alam na natin na may storya tayo. And from there, I applied for a grant. You have to show the feasibility first and foremost of a story before applying for a Pulitzer Center
How long
grant.
did it take, the application for this grant, the entire process?
You apply for a grant, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for the Pulitzer Center to review it. They initially rejected my initial budget proposal because I said I want to cover the trail from Hong Kong to Singapore, and they said, no, maybe you should just focus on one area. So may ganun din, may iterations din even in the grant proposal process. And then, but the most important thing was to show that you can do the story, and you can also you have the access to the communities, which I should say also for those people who are thinking about doing such a thing. Before I even applied for the grant, you have to do the homework, right? So I also took advantage of one trip to Indonesia to just check on resources and
Right.
who was willing to talk to me. Was it feasible to visit the women who are in jail for
Yes.
supposed
So
suicide
parang
bomb attacks?
feasibility study na way
Feasibility
na rin.
study talaga. Yes.
Okay, so the three of you got together. I don't think you had ever worked together before.
No.
Diba? So parang first time.
I first met the two of them when you called us for a meeting.
How was
to
it?
talk about it.
Mahirap ba? Working with two
Kasi-
people you never worked with before?
No, surprisingly, no, it wasn't. Maybe because their personalities, they're very nice people. Anna is so funny. Tapos si Michelle, quiet lang siya. So, wala masyadong strong alpha female personality na that would intimidate me. And it's very encouraging every time we meet, every time we talk online. Parang it's just an encouraging environment. And then everybody respects also each one's specialization.
So what
or
attracted you to
experience.
this particular project?
Well, because since I've been covering the military naman for a long time na, even if I was on a hiatus of sorts,
Yes.
parang nandun pa rin siya. It's
Uh-uh.
still the interest na parang, oh, what's happening na, ganyan. So, it was nice that you brought me in because I parang reignited, that interest. Diba? And then, okay, talk to sources again. And then, yun, and from there, I worked on this with everyone.
So how did you gel together, Michelle? Lalo na ikaw yung pinakabata, di ba?
Yes. My first day, because it's very interesting that I started working on this on the second day of my employment. So, so imagine a fresh grad, straight out of college, eyes sparkling. Oh, this is the world of journalists, and suddenly terrorism, defense, and
Okay.
diba, Anna has been working with Rappler for several years, and then the beat that Miss Nico covered was defense in Malacanang. Those are very big topics, and I'm suddenly working with these very respected and veteran journalists. So for me, it was a little bit of a shock, but of course, with the very encouraging environment that I was able to have with these ladies, it became also a home, I guess, to be able to work with them. And I guess also the special angle on women interested me because my passion is on women. So it was interesting for me to, even though this field was very new to me, terrorism, the fact that women played such a key role in it was very interesting for me, and it really enticed me to learn more about it and work on it with
Yan
the
ang
team.
tinatawag na baptism of fire.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Very
Pero
long,
girl,
protracted
baptism of fire ko, police speed. Kanya ito.
Police sa kanya, terrorism.
Sa akin, crime lang.
Okay, so you mentioned terrorism as a topic. It's not easy to talk about, to research on, and to do an investigative report on. So Anna, paano yung pag-atake mo dito? How did you dissect this otherwise complicated topic?
A lot of it first was going through a lot of available research, and it was really confusing because I think from the start, you were pushing me. We need, apart from an Indonesia angle, a very strong Filipino angle to this. Tama naman, pero wow, hirap. So, to understand the terrorism nuances of both countries,
Yeah.
the differences and the similarities, kasi definitely may link talaga. So it was going back to a lot of different readings, a diversity of, or diverse kinds also. I listened to Rukmini Calamachi's The Caliphate podcast.
Yes.
So I could get a better understanding of terrorism globally and
Yes.
overall. And then I read a couple of different articles also about the women who are part of, who join as ISIS brides. And other talagang hardcore academic research materials. Okay, that was hard. I mean, right? So I would start
For how
drawing.
long
Since
yung research mo?
as soon as I got the grant. No,
Which
actually,
was?
no. Sorry. A little bit, maybe going on, really, let's go hardcore. When I really started doing the in-depth deep dive, I got the grant in April,
Okay.
April 2019. So, you do a little bit of research to put the proposal together, or you got the gist of the story, then you got the grant, so go into a deep dive already. How are you going to attack this story? And the first thing was understanding who the characters are, like any story.
Right.
So it was hard, so I would do drawings like this.
Sige nga, let us show.
Right,
Oh,
so
sige,
I would
will
do
hold it for
drawings
you.
like this, just so I could understand. These are the Philippine terror groups. This is Abu Sayyaf, the AKP, the ISIS Maranao, or the Maute, and then the BIFF. And then I would try to understand who are the leaders, who are their different lovers, wives, girlfriends, mothers, and then how are they connected. And then this was in different colors. I like this, doing different colors. This is what the military says about them, etc. So ganyan,
So
madaling
kailangan
intindihin.
visual.
Para sa akin,
It has
I'm not
to
sure
be-
about the others, pero para sa akin, it was too much information for me, Chai,
Okay.
to go through text, and then even if I wrote it down in my notebook,
Right.
it was just not sticking
Uh-huh.
in terms of, I need a zoom out picture. What is it like? If
And you
were
have
to
all
ask
these
me.
names that are difficult to pronounce and remember.
And some of them are very similar.
Yeah.
A lot of them are Muhammad, a lot of them are Abu. So that was for me, like, if you were to ask me, what is the Philippine terrorism state or groups like in the Philippines, I should be able to tell you there are 4 of them, key groups recognized by the military. These are in different areas. They control different areas in Mindanao. And according to the military, this is how they perceive them to be a threat.
Okay.
That's what this picture tells me in my head, so I can communicate it to you, or to whoever asks me.
And it's easy to remember kasi
Yes.
na drawing and
For me. Tsaka kinukulayan ko siya para naman nag-i-enjoy ako, gumagawa ako ng sarili kong infographic kahit hindi naman siya maganda. Basta lang maalala ko siya. A way for me to remember it.
Okay. While you were deep diving and doing all these illustrations and all that, what was the most significant thing for you that you discovered while you were working on this story?
Me?
Nico, ikaw.
That our intelligence community was already started focusing on the women, that they were studying the women. That, diba, that there's this agency
Yes.
that they do have a little division.
Mhm.
It's been a year na, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oo, na parang nobody knew about it. And to me, the fact that they organized that, assigned someone, experts to that division, it means this is a serious matter
Yeah.
that they're looking into. You know, we always say, "Ay, failure of intelligence na naman." You know, of course, we're critical
Yeah.
of what they do. But at the same time, parang I was impressed, then scared also.
Why?
Because this means it's serious, and
Yeah.
they know that something could happen, whether in the immediate or far future. They're preparing for that,
What's that?
and that more women will be involved in terrorism. And they pointed out that the difficult part here is kasi iba nga talaga yung role ng women tapos nag-evolve siya. So, and mas what is the word that we use? Parang mas mas cunning pag babae. Kasi iba-iba yung rules na traditionally alam natin eh. Tapos pag iniba mo siya, baka hindi mo masundan. You get what I mean? Yung, di ba, parang who would ever thought na yung nilabas na picture na nandun na siya sa battlefield, di ba, may hawak siyang barrel, di ba, naabot doon. Or kahit hindi pa Filipino, kahit foreigner, mag-suicide bomber siya. That happened September while we were doing this story. So, parang na-validate on the ground yung pinaka-theory natin.
Yes.
Di ba? So, yun. And then, when we met the people in that division, in that intel agency,
Are you free to divulge?
parang
No?
hindi.
Secret.
It's your source.
Parang
sige,
hindi
wag na.
ata.
Wag
Yeah.
na.
Oo. Parang hindi kasi little known pa sila and they do sensitive work eh.
Okay.
So, yun. And they're really experts. Like what Anna did in deep dive talaga. Sila talagang pinag-aaralan nila every single thing. Parang nga may pagka-academic, diba?
Oo,
Remember
medyo.
when we were talking
marami
to
rin
them?
silang at least on the ground na nagve-verify sila. In fact, minsan we would be talking to them, this is what we read in the research. Tapos sila, hindi masyadong accurate yan or hindi na updated yan. Ito yung on the ground namin. So it was also a good way of really verifying, even updating information. Oo.
Yeah, that was a realization for me. Yun yung pinaka-striking
So
for
parang
me.
medyo positive yan, ano? That in terms of intelligence, medyo hindi naman naiiwanan ang Philippine, ang military and the intelligence agencies who are tracking
Yes.
terrorism.
Yes.
Ikaw, Michelle, what struck you here?
if we were talking about what the positive is that the intelligence agencies are looking at this issue, for me it was more on something that's quite scary. So I think for me the most significant thing was one of our titles. It was hiding in plain sight,
Yeah.
right? So it's it's the women that we ride with in the train, women that we might see in a bookstore buying books for small children. Because remember the two women that we were working on, one turned out to be a BPO officer, the other one turned out to be a kindergarten teacher, and so these are people that you truly will not suspect, and you never know that if someone behind the scenes is planning something super terrible. So that's how terrorism has evolved, I see, with the way that we investigated this story.
Ikaw rin ba? I mean, kasi nga, what was interesting about yung mga initial na kwento nyo, no, yung mga discoveries, yung isa was dating crew sa airline.
Ground crew, yes.
Yes, ground crew initially, sabi niya pa nga, baka stewardess, pero it turned out hindi pala stewardess, no? But
Nakita namin
ground
yun,
crew. So
right.
parang very, very ordinary women that you would least suspect to be involved in terrorism. Kasi may mga stereotypes nga tayo ng kababaihan. Do you think Pinoys are ready to be suicide bombers? Kasi yun yung parang unthinkable pa at this point. Are we headed there?
Well, okay, I talked to I'll give you try to give the different perspectives. So,
Sige.
I talked to the MILF, and they said that they outright rejected suicide bombing, and it's not part of their religion.
This is MI.
Yes, MI. Si Sir Iqbal. So, talagang sabi na outright reject kami niyan. Okay. And then another terrorism expert in Indonesia said na, I don't think it's gonna catch on in the Philippines because I don't think the different groups there can agree to support it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think from that part, there's really a resistance to it. And at the same time, on the women's side, but what about the women? No, we saw what was most illuminating for me. I had originally thought, oh wow, sexy. She likes a jihadist, right? So she's radicalized by some jihadist. It's all for love and romance. Maybe she's blinded by it. But then it turns out when we were talking to the other experts, that dilutes women's agency and her need for empowerment and to assert herself and to assert that she has a role to play in jihad, which is just as legitimate as her male counterparts. I was like, okay.
Yes.
So
interesting point.
talaga.
Yes.
Pero dapat nag-recalibrate din tayo as a, when you're writing it na, okay, dapat hindi lang itong side ng romance, very nuanced din dapat, that other side of the decision making. And given that, parang, if that's the case, how are we going to prevent the radicalization into suicide bombing for women? I don't know what other indicators we have sa Philippines except what we have now, right? We have Norman, our first Filipino. We don't know if it's going to cross over to women. But what we do see in Indonesia, and this was the interesting finding then, I asked an expert in Indonesia, wait, did you hear about any Filipino suicide bombers? No, you don't have suicide bombers for Filipina, just us Indonesians. Okay. And then I did read a report that said that among the women in the region, Malaysia, Indonesia, and us, the Indonesians are the most radical and the most extreme. So they are willing to go to the point of going on to a suicide bomb attack. We've seen that in the family, the suicide attacks by
Curious, is
families.
it ideological? What is it that motivates women? Kasi nga, medyo nakulong tayo sa stereotype, di ba, na support lang, behind the scenes. It's the men who will go out in the battlefield and strategize. The women is just support. Pero for example, dun sa Marawi, di ba, the Mautes, si Farhana, it was out in the reports na critical siya sa pag-deploy ng sasakyan, sa pag-fund ng operations. What is it that motivates these women? Meron ba kayong theories?
Well, according to the sources, it's also the belief, diba, in the cause. So, it's the same as the men, and then this one person, intel person we spoke to nga when she was studying them, this person also met with itong mga suspects, 'di ba? When they were na detained. 'Di ba? Buo yung loob.
Mm.
So, alam nila, naintindihan na, kumbaga, na-internalize talaga nila what they are fighting for.
Mhm.
So, that's why nga they are saying, maybe now, parang mahirap pa natin mag-grasp yung idea of a Filipino woman suicide bomber. Pero eventually, with their exposure, and with the way they are indoctrinating on the ground, kasi diba they're using different methods nga, different narratives, yung talagang how to draw them in, and then i-relate mo nila dun sa nangyayari. The usual, di ba? Kung you're poor, you're ignored, you're ganyan, you're walang
Marginalized.
development, marginalized. Tapos, mali yung pagkaka-interpret nila ng Islam, di ba? Kasi iniiba daw talaga nila di ba? To suit nga yung need nila. Then, mas nado-draw in, and then you might have, more women who will embrace this. Plus, the other one, di ba yung teacher, si Myrna. So, when we asked yung source, parang, how was she indoctrinated? Hindi, lumaki siyang ganyan.
Sa family.
Sa family. Ito, tito niya, uncle niya, cousins niya. So, no indoctrination needed.
I think that was interesting about the cases of the women that we highlighted in the stories. As you said, Nico, yung lumaki na sila sa ganong environment. So it's not so much the need to embrace it anymore. Parang to just go on the extreme side. Or pag-suporta din sa pamilya, family terrorism network, or enterprise na ang tawag dun sa mga sina Joromi, right? The Montongan family. But on the other side, some experts were saying that another thing to watch for is for those very moderate Muslims, ang tawag nga ng beginner Muslims,
Yeah.
madaling ma-indoctrinate daw ng mga extremists who say that they know the best things about the Quran or the most important things na, and when you think about it, if you're moderate about any religion, but you want to learn more about it, you're prone or vulnerable to believe what somebody else says about it. So
The very first Filipino suicide bomber was so young. Di ba?
Right, Norman.
Si Norman, and this was in Suluk, in Danan,
Yes.
in Danan, Suluk. He was 23 years old.
Yes.
Is this something that also was surprising for you? Halimbawa, ikaw, Michelle, can you imagine someone as young as 23 years old being a suicide bomber?
Yeah, I don't think that's something that first comes to mind, because like me, I'm turning 23 this year.
Oo
And
nga,
that-
bata mo pa.
So I can't really imagine like someone that I graduated with suddenly going towards some kind of mission like that. But this is not like, even though he's our first suicide bomber, Filipino suicide bomber, millennials have been already getting themselves involved. Like, for example, the one a few years ago, one of the husbands of the women that we were studying as well, he was the Filipino who was almost able to go to Syria, and he was deported back here because of a botched migration. But these are these new trends that we have to be paying attention towards these young people who are getting themselves involved in extremism as
Yeah.
well.
Can I?
Sure.
Lately kasi I've been on Twitter, but monitoring, you'll find
Yes.
this funny, just following all these fan accounts, yung
Yeah.
mga ganyan. And then dun ko na-realize how their minds work and how they actually use Twitter pala. It's like their own community. Sorry kung ngayon ko lang ito na-discover, but they talk like they know each other. Na merong ibang nagsasabi na DM me if parang I'm sad right now. If you have anything to make me happy, DM me. So, pop culture.
Right.
But what would make it different? Parang hindi siya malayo dun sa extreme na terrorism. They're so vulnerable because they think this online world is the real world. Lalo na yung mga bata. Diba?
Pero interesting din doon, yung di ba what you're talking na, violent extremism is not something, you join.
Yeah.
It's a process that appeals to you, that you start embracing because it addresses or some need in you. whether it's a need for belonging or you're lonely as a migrant worker, you want adventure and you're going to meet your jihadist lover in Turkey and get married there. Some women were planning to do that. It answers a certain need that hasn't been addressed. Yun yung nakakatakot. For me,
Naro-romanticize din ba siya?
that, yes. I was thinking that as well. Romanticized meaning from a point of view na ISIS has been they're such experts with marketing themselves with slick propaganda video, but also the way that some stories were written and the way that it's the running away with your jihadist boyfriend, etc. And to tell you honestly, that's how I had seen it from the first when I thought about this story. But it's a lot more than that. Really addressing a particular need in you, na unfulfilled. And then I thought, who doesn't have an unfulfilled need of loneliness, the need to belong, the need to feel empowered because you feel invisible in a certain environment? Who doesn't go through that? So naisip ko, kung ganon, at maraming vulnerable to embracing a violent extremist view.
And in doing this also, we also discovered parang pinaka-journey din ng mga intel officials natin, ng authorities, because like the only person who allowed us to quote him, Cesar B. Garcia, di ba?
Yeah.
Kita mo nung time niya, like early 2000, iba talaga yung tingin nila. He also said that, parang, we weren't, hindi sila masyado sa mga ganyan, vulnerability, yung very, the square box lang talaga na idea nila of terrorism. Kasi yun yung environment that time. Wala ka naman social media nung time na yun.
Right.
It's more na face-to-face yung recruitment talaga nila. So ganito din sila nag-investigate that time. Kaya kahit siya, like sina Jerome nun, kuha na nila. But they let her go because wala namang indications that time. So, nag-evolve din talaga sila.
In terms of methods, saan kayo nahirapan? Was there any point in your investigation where you felt that this is a wall and parang ang daming hurdles nito and baka matagalan or baka hindi matapos ng story to?
Madami. Because you will find the names of these women in open source documents. Mirna Mabanza is named, she's a designated terrorist. Karen Hamidon is also named, Farhana as well. But then, you can't, what's this, an investigative story if you're just going to quote that, right? We were looking for ways if we could interview Farhana or Karen. Michelle helped out with those requests, they were denied. And then that was where Nico came in. Okay, who can we talk to who has had interface with these women?
Yeah.
And that's where her intelligence sources came in and very generously shared, right?
Actually,
the
the
encounters.
part of it also is luck, di ba? Parang not all, di ba? Parang
Right. And your K-pop,
yeah, I know, di ba? Yung parang afternoon, ito yung sinasabi ko, mga pangalan ng Koreans. Tapos parang nung gabi, ay, balik tayo sa sa mga pangalan ng terorista. But anyway, luck then, and also, the trust that I was able to build with my long-time sources na even if we haven't like spoken to each other for like months, ganyan. Tapos, tapos ikakataon talaga na case namin to. And then one
So,
interesting,
swerte rin talaga.
Swerte, luck talaga. I think among journalists,
Yes.
diba, luck really plays an important part. And then, we were having a difficult time ata kay Karen that time. Diba?
This is Karen Hamidon.
Karen
Yeah,
Hamidon,
Karen
right.
Hamidon. Kasi si Myrna, at least may nakuha na tayong medyo first-hand na info. And then, kay Karen, I was at a social event. Diba? Social event lang yon. Tapos, nakikipagkwentuhan ka, you saw your old sources. And then, may nabanggit lang ako, sir, we're working on this story. Tapos niya, alam ko yan. Yung parang, okay. And then the team came in like 2 weeks later, no?
Sorry. The trust thing also, I wanted to bring it up because like it was my first time trying to build trust with justice officials. So all I had with me was a request letter, and then I took the PNR going to Bikutan for the Taguig Hall of Justice. And so it was my first time meeting these people, and I've never covered justice before in my life. And suddenly I'm asking to see the case file of this big-time terrorist facilitator. So getting a hold of documents was quite a challenge. But thankfully, like, since Karen Hamidon is very notorious, as in, I remember calling up the branch and asking about if I can see the file, and I had the case number ready just in case they asked for it. But then I said, would it be possible to see the name of the case file of Karen Hamidon? And then I heard in the background, yung case file ni Karen, what about? So it's like she was already a famous case in their branch.
Yeah.
And so when I came over and I was able to give over my request, they gave me huge files that they were probably memorized like the back of their hand. So I think that's also luck, because she was a big time, high profile facilitator. But what if it was, someone else? What
So
if
it was, what I'm seeing here is a nice gelling of your, I don't know,
Compliment
skills.
talaga.
Yeah.
Kasi kahit na nag-deep dive ako dun sa mga sources, kulang siya eh. Di ba kulang yung, okay, you have the framework, pero nasan yung little human bits of interest about this person, etc. Then doon naman pumasok si Nico. And I don't see, she can only get that information because of the trust of her sources talaga. I could have gone to the same people and I would have probably gotten a different kind of interface or interview with them. At the same time, they were telling us a lot of things from what they knew on the ground, pero kailangan din namin i-cross-check sa mga reports. Like just that one little detail that Karen was a flight attendant. Tinanong namin sila, flight attendant daw ba? Yung bang report? Oh, flight attendant. But we saw a police report and her court documents that said she was ground crew. And to my mind, that makes a difference because I'm like, do I want to be flying with a flight attendant? Not that, but those things that may cause unnecessary alarm. But also those things, those little bits of fact-checking, kaya nag-gel talaga na eto yung mga people who had all the intel, but at the same time, kailangan din natin i-cross-check yung little details.
And it's always exciting pag tumatama
Yes.
siya.
Pag may corroboration.
Pag may corroboration.
Oo, totoo.
So how many people did you interview all in all?
Wow. Lots. From Indonesia pa, about 20 different people. And then...
In Indonesia alone?
Yes. Because I went on 2 trips.
Right.
But then that was also very good to serve us, to understand the link, between Indonesia and Philippines. And then here, we had a handful here as well. And of course, in your different sources, no?
Actually, when you read the 2-part series, hindi mo isipin na ang hirap pala
Nang ginawa
nang
niyo.
ginawa.
Oo.
Kasi ang simple lang ng narration niya eh.
Yeah.
Yan, tapos di ba may graphics ka pa and
Yes.
all. Kaya lang yun nga eh, the hard work talaga is yung double checking your info. Kasi like sila, siguro inisip ng mga intel, di ba? Flight attendant and ground is the same. Di ba? Yung same terms lang yun usually.
That it makes a whole world of
Kasi I covered
difference.
the airport also before.
Yeah.
So that's when I discovered na, so pati ako na, ay magkaiba pala yun. Yung gano'n na parang, kasi yung iba sinasabi nila, flight attendant na sila, kaya lang, nasa ground pala siya. Yung gano'n. So, pwedeng gano'n. Tapos, what else? Oh, yung pangalan ni Myrna.
Yeah.
Diba? Mabansa, abansa sa authorities, sa military, and police, abansa siya.
Abansa.
Pero sa official document,
Ng US State
mabansa
Department. And then, buti na lang, you were able to track, I think, or Luisa, tracked a passport and a teacher's ID. And then we also cross-checked the teacher's ID with the results of the teacher
So
licensure
kailangan medyo
exams.
OC ka rin, ano?
Grabe.
Kasi diba,
Oo.
our first rule is accuracy, accuracy, accuracy.
Right. Okay. Zoom out lang ng konti. Do you think that the information, this intel information, is being shared with allies? And what do you, given Duterte's, again, big picture, given Duterte's pivot to China, will this affect intelligence sharing with the US, for example, which has, of course, been very, hindi naman obsessed, but talagang focused then on terrorism? What do you think? In foreign policy aspect of things.
I don't think so that it affects. Kasi the US and the Philippine militaries have long established their ties talaga eh. It's not perfect, but ano yun, magko-continue yun, I think, regardless of, kasi, commanders-in-chief come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yung kung ano yung shared information nila and then how they how they pass on to it. Alam mo, syempre, nag-retire din naman sa, or they move on to other assignments. You know, it stays. And they study that same information. They talk to the same offices, agencies. So, and they have, itong mga to, usually, isa din lang naman talaga yung goal nila is to, secure everybody. Keep the peace, diba?
So this will go beyond Duterte.
Yeah, I do think so.
You feel the same way?
I'd like to. I'll go to the more local view now, kasi the government right now, the administration is so obsessed with the leftist movement and the CCP, but the forefront now is violent extremism.
Right.
So, are we giving equal attention or just the appropriate attention to the security level and the security risk? Especially one point that made me scared was all of our intel sources said na, huwag na kayong umasa, hindi na mangyayari yung Marawi. Okay. Pero mga individual bombing activities, remember, it's inevitable that there will be suicide bomb attempts. Ang sabi. And then, globally, ganun din na nangyayari. Knife attacks, vehicle ramming. Tawag nila low-end terrorism. Yung madaling gawin. So, given that, are we focusing properly in terms of the resources and the manpower needed, especially since violent extremism is so tech-driven. The way the recruitment is done, everything is so tech-driven. I'm not sure we have embraced that, the government has fully embraced that in terms of surveillance. I'm not sure, maybe they're just not telling us a complete picture, but I'm not sure about that. And that's my concern.
Okay. Were there any moments na medyo nag-enjoy naman kayo?
Yeah.
Mabigat yung topic, pero I guess if you were to do this for an extended period of time, you will become insane kapag panaginip mo, terrorista.
Katabi mo na pala siya in your dream.
So were there light moments as well which made this something easier?
Okay, maybe I'll start because I was in the early days of my working on this. I was still working with the researcher before me, Lucia. So she was also an intern around my age, and so we were talking about, if all else fails, pakasal na lang tayo sa jihadist boyfriend. So kasi we were looking at stories of how they were romanced and how they were told that they were going to be treated as queens. But of course, when they get there, it's a different story.
Yeah.
So we would joke about that.
Syempre, interesting sa akin si Miss Karen, di ba? Very interesting sa akin yung profile ni Miss Karen Hamidon. She's the one, first of all, she was the one who was the ground crew, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, she was using violent extremism as an opportunist activity, right? She was raising funds. She was marrying men online to raise money for herself via dowry. So the intel that were telling us, she's not much of a security threat. She's more of an opportunist. So isa na
meron
lang,
ding ganyan.
Meron ding ganyan.
Okay.
And then, of course, nung nakita namin to, how was she doing that? How was she, generating money through these marriages and dowries? Nagha-honey trap daw siya. Nakita namin one line in Indian media, no? Nagha-honey trap daw siya. So she was enticing men with salacious and other content, supposedly, to marry her.
Yeah.
So yun yung naging exciting point sa amin na may group chat tayo, di ba? Nakita mo yung kay Karen? Honey trap daw, ang sineset niya. Then tapos sabi ko kay Michelle, ano ba yung honey trap? So, it just sounded...
I had to look it up.
And then she had to look it up. It sounds, oo nga, yung mukhang nga yung inakala natin.
Okay.
So ganun yung mag-uusap, para lang light yung pag-verify yung information, madali din tandaan who is who, and who is what.
Yes.
Okay, so last question na lang siguro. After the two-part series, meron pa bang kasunod? What's next? Meron pa ba kayong gustong gawin? Or you wanted to do pero hindi nyo nagawa dito, so maybe the next time around?
Sabi nga ng intel sources natin, we have just begun to scratch the surface when it comes to women in terrorism, right? So when we looked at the women that we profiled, their really core critical contribution was the lifeline of money. And they were able to move large chunks of money even in small volumes, in small amounts, but in volume. So that's very interesting kasi yun yung pag-finance, right? Terrorism is no different from any other activity. It needs money. So, sila ang nakakapasok ng money, whether through remittances, or minsan ginagamit yung name nila, which may be innocuous sounding, and hindi pa siya listed as terrorist sa US Department. So, nakakapag-open siya ng mga bank account, nakakapagpadala siya, nagne-network siya sa mga neighborhood. So, that will be the very interesting part. Again, what is the role of women, but in line with the funding channel, you know,
Okay.
as a
And
lifeline
that's
to terrorism.
major.
Major
I mean, when we were working on this, when the sources were confirming, every time na banggitin mo yung women na to, yun yung parating una na yung sasabihin. They handled the finances and the logistics. Parang ang laking
Yes.
responsibility nun.
Like if they weren't in the picture, probably operations would have never happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so thank you very much for this exciting discussion. Obviously, marami pang dapat kalkalin, no? And there's lots more to find out. And we will continue monitoring the women, and we'll continue doing stories on terrorism. And we hope that good to know that some of our intel agents are starting to look at the role of women as well, and that hindi naman nahuhuli. And hopefully, merong zooming out na hindi lang nag-o-obsess with, as Anna mentioned, the red tagging and even the war on drugs, because really the bigger threat and the bigger challenge is global terrorism. So thank you very much for joining us. Till the next Newsbreak Chats in February. This is Chai Hofilenya.